Welcome to Causing the Effect, a podcast focused on the exploration of your mind, body, and spirit.
What's going on, Causing the Effect community? I'm here with some Philly boys, former NBA player Jay Green, sports performance specialist Carmen Mastro, aka Nooch, cornerstone of my fitness piece. What's up, boys?
How's it going?
How we feeling?
Good. Guys, what do you think the difference is between the Philadelphia attitude compared to at least the West Coast bullshit? We'll just stay on the West Coast for now.
Look, I mean, I know, being from Philly, it's a whole lot of pride from where we come from, man. It's like anywhere you go, you're gonna talk about Philly. It's like we are our own state, man. Even on the radio, they'll say Philly, Jersey, Delaware. Those are two other states, and they'll mention us as a city. So it's we're one in our own state, man, but we're a city all by ourselves.
Yeah, I think it's funny, like being in the Midwest now, I'm just like learning a lot from, myself and now being around how like polite people are here. And I'm just like, well, everyone's like, oh, you're just so high strung and everything has to happen so quick. I'm just like, well, it has to. That's how I am. And it's the same thing when I go to New York. It's like at like expedited like 10 times even more that when I'm in New York. So it's just a mind state of, blue collar, we know what we want, we know how to get it done. And, that's just how we were raised.
Yeah, because there's something. I mean, listen, I'm a hard worker, but I'm a little bit razzle dazzle. I feel like I got to show off a little bit. You boys from Philly just seem to have this kind of silent strength about you, and I've always sensed that in both of you. But where do you think that discipline of the mind comes from for each of you, at least? And we'll start with that because I know we're gonna talk about the mind in this shit.
You got him.
I think just growing up in that like tough environment. It's not for everybody. And I always tell people, if you ever get a chance to go to Philly and to experience it, it's probably unlike any city you're going to experience in the country. I was there not too long ago just for a funeral, and I was just like, the city doesn't change. It's kind of like a cartoon in a sense, not in a bad way, but it's just like it's in its own element out of anything you've never experienced, because there's just so much going on and you just don't experience a lot of that type of like atmosphere anywhere else in the country. And I've been to pretty much almost every state in this country, traveling for either work or for sports. So I've gotten a chance to travel and I've seen it, and it's just like it definitely presents a different environment than a lot of other states. But also like my family, and growing up in a household where my father was a fighter, my mother was tough as it can be, raising a sick mother herself. It's just like you learn a lot from your environment that you grow up in.
Yeah, I can't agree more. Like seriously, it's definitely a tough environment. I mean, the entire city it's competitive at that, right? It's just a whole nature, even if it's just within your neighborhood, that you feel competition. You just want to be the one that makes it out. You want to be the best one at what you do, and you enjoy it. I'll be honest with you. It makes you better. You want to show out a little bit for your guys, even for the girls, if that's the case. But it makes you better. And that's one thing I realized, that the pressure that was put on us, it wasn't bad pressure. It was pressure that, that really turned us, into diamonds in our own right. And you want to live up to it. You want to live up to any hype that you may get, or any negativity you may get, what I mean? That drives you. I mean, we were just talking off air, how that kind of drives us a little bit. Somebody says something, bad about you. It's like, okay, it's game time. Let me actually step up my game and become even better. And that's one thing I loved about growing up in Philly, man. You're surrounded by hustlers. Like even where I used to go in West Philly on 52nd Street, every time I go out there to buy a T-shirt back in the day, or a Dickie suit or something, it's just like, everybody's selling something. They're out there just hustling. They're selling T-shirts, selling scents and colognes and everything like that. You're just surrounded by hustlers, man, and you just kind of pick up on it yourself.
Now, how is that philosophy played into both of your athletic careers, right? And then how did you guys have to alter that, moving more towards being a coach? Because I know both you guys are doing performance training.
Jay, you can go if you want, brother.
I mean, for me, that was, again, it transferred over into sports and translated into sports in an amazing way. Because again, that hustle is what I I had to learn to apply on the court. As far as, you know, any anger, excuse me, any anger I may have had off the court, I was taught to use it on the court. You know, for me, it was more so basketball became a great distraction for me. You know, growing up in an abandoned house and things like that in North Philly, like basketball was the ultimate distraction. That's why I loved it. I'm like, oh, it was just an amazing escape for me. And so just the anger I may have had from my neighborhood and, you know, getting in fights as a little child. Once I got in basketball, I stopped getting in fights because I wanted to be on the court. I stopped getting in trouble in different ways. I used to get in trouble because I didn't want to miss my basketball game. So I was able to use any anger I had and apply it on the court, and just I learned to become a better person, to be honest with you, man, by doing that. And transitioning even into the coaching side and the training side, I now even teach people to use their anger, but to channel it in the proper way. Use that to be a strength of theirs. Use the sadness they have, use the energy that comes along with it, channel it, and let's apply it while we're on the field or on the court.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you a lot. And for myself, I've held on to a lot of anger, just like growing up and, you know, not getting the results that I wanted. Just being, when I was an athlete, I was just always hurt, and I had the potential to get somewhere, but like I just couldn't stay healthy. So that was like my major thing when I was coming up. And then I just took it all into coaching and training. And now till this day, it's still like kind of mess with my head still. I'm just like, man, if I could have stayed healthy or whatnot, could have actually been doing a little bit more than I actually was. But I just feel like everything kind of fell into place for me. How was it was supposed to. And I think now that I'm able to still move and, you know, do the things that I'm capable of doing with my clients and with my athletes, it's like people want to prove themselves to me, like with me, like moving around, if that makes any sense. Like as soon as they come in the gym, they're just like, oh, well, let's see if he's real. Or like an athlete comes in, they're just like, all right, well, let's test him kind of. And I'm like, don't test me. Don't test me. Don't do that.
Right.
But in that same sense, it's just like my athletes who I've been working with for a while, I still have to relay that like notion to them, like slow down, you know, just we're going to get what you need to get to. Like when we layer in a new movement, it's always like thing I always say, it's like we have to slow down in order to speed up. So let's take a step back, you know, brick by brick, and then one step at a time, you'll pick it up easily. So I think if we just kind of dial it back and see where it all stems from, I think we'll be all right.
You think you learn patience from the coaching side of things? Because I feel like you just do things your way and you're quick and you know how to do shit, but coaching somebody that way could be tough.
No, I think I'm definitely a lot more patient now than I was before. And I think you learn that being, you know, in a little bit of a pro setting, because, you know, you have, you know, 25, 30 people that are relying on you to get them prepped and get them in where they need to be. And like when I first started, I was a nervous wreck going into a lot of games, and I was like, didn't know how to channel my energy. I'm like running, almost like running in the walls before games and whatnot. And then by the end of the season, I don't know if I was just exhausted from working so damn much or what it was, but I was just like really focused on what needed to get done from, you know, a data standpoint, a physical standpoint, X, Y, and Z. And it all kind of just fell into place for me. And I feel like even now, last year, with what I was as busy as I could possibly be, it's taught me so many lessons about how to be patient, how to grow as an athlete, how to get athletes to grow. And it's last year was probably like the biggest beneficiary to my career, I think.
Now you ended up moving around because I see you were training like a hockey, you were training somebody in hockey to like, how has the shift been from sports, particularly moving away from that pro women's soccer league? Is you see more of a mental, like I'm trying to get towards a mental toughness question, but what do you think about the mental toughness of these athletes?
Well, I think it's everything now. Like I think the biggest misconception we have, and I'm sure Jake can attest to it, is that, you know, somebody comes in and they just want to like be a sports specific athlete. They just want to train for basketball, or they just want to train for a specific, you know, sport. And it's just not, it doesn't happen. Like we have things we need to accomplish to get you strong in specific areas, and you have to do that. There's no like specific exercise that is going to make you better, this, that, and the other thing. And the things I post with, you know, hockey guy, soccer guy, football guy, it all translates, you know. Like people come to me and they want to be able to move and change direction better. I'm gonna do the same thing I did with you. Maybe I'll switch it to a slight degree to make it more specific with air quotes. But at the end of the day, we're doing the same thing. But from a mental standpoint, that season last year was a grind. It was 10 months. So, and there's really no off season. So you're picking right back up and into it. So mentally, from that side of things, they're some of the most mentally tough athletes I was around ever, and I had to be the same way because some of them are playing with broken feet, broken this, broken that, getting needled, getting this, getting shot up every day. So it's not easy.
That's the. I mean, I get that completely, man. It's especially like I said, athletes who want to come and just want to train specifically toward their sport. You have to be well-rounded as an athlete, not just as a basketball player, a football player, a soccer player. I've had to do the same thing, break different bodies down, body types down, and say, look, this is what you actually need. You slow off off your initial move from a standstill and things like that, just doing basic assessments. And as a kid, I'm reminded of, I used to work with a junior Olympian water polo player. That was a challenge for me. First time I ever worked with a kid like that. And I began training him, just as you said, I began training him with baseball movements and doing a lot, again, the throwing of the ball is the same. It's the same motion as a quarterback or a pitcher. And I began training the lower body in the same way I would train a runner because you're treading water the whole time. So it's so many cross sports, cross training, you can say, that takes place. And, as I'm teaching them to be patient with the process, it makes me be more patient with the whole process too, just seeing how they develop in increments because it doesn't happen overnight. And so, I mean, that's been a beautiful part of the process, man. That's why I really began to fall in love with the training side. Like, honestly, like I never thought I would. I didn't think I would be this much in love with this side of sports because I enjoy competing so much. But this side is so fulfilling. There's nothing like working with somebody and seeing some results on the other side of it.
It sounds like, because I know, Nooch, you deal with both, kind of newer athletes and these high level athletes, but it sounds like part of the process with these experienced athletes is kind of letting them get out of their own way and kind of pushing that ego to the side. Would you say that's accurate?
Oh, definitely. I've been very fortunate with, some of the athletes that I've trained. They have all come to me, and like I haven't dealt with a very egotistical athlete. So I've been very blessed on that side of things where it was just like, I trust in you. We're getting results. We're going to do what you say. And, I've had conversations where I've had to like put almost like two loose leaf pieces of paper of like specific exercises down with one specific athlete on a team. And it's just like, okay, well, here it is. This is what I can lay out for you. You want variety? Here it is. We could do this or we can do what we're doing because regardless, we're going to get results. And, that was a very rare instance that it's happened. But I think older athletes, especially when you start to deal with more of a team, they're going to know what they want, right? They've done it. They know their bodies. And when it gets to that point, you kind of just go along with the flow. And if they trust you, they'll trust with what you sprinkle in from here and there. So if you have that rapport with them, it shouldn't be a problem.
Exactly.
Jay, what about you now? I guess you could even take it to like playing with pro bowlers, like when they would be getting coached on the pro level. Like, how much does ego play in that of getting to another level when you're basically just trying to squeeze out the last 1-2%? Because that's what makes the difference between the amateurs and the pros.
I mean, that's really it, man. It's a lot of refinement that happens. Not a ton of obviously teaching always happens, but it's not like you're teaching a whole lot of new tricks to pros. It's really about refining their current skill and helping to build on the current skills that they have, the current abilities that they have, and it's a ton of maintenance work that you do with pros. If you're working with a high school athlete, even collegiate athlete, you're still helping to teach and to build. Once a pro is a pro, obviously that's still involved, but it's a whole lot of maintenance work, making sure that they're consistent with different things. That's like the main thing I've noticed with pros. Even when I was being trained as a pro, the whole thing was consistency. All right. So you want to be able to maintain and be able to outshine whoever the competitor is, even your teammates. That's one thing my trainers tell me all the time. Look, you don't want to just be better than competition, be better than everybody else on your team. You just got to be more consistent. So that was the main thing we worked on, making sure I can do this in my sleep, making sure I can do it with my eyes closed, mid-range jump shots, stuff like that. Step backs with my eyes closed. We literally we were on some Karate Kid stuff, some of our workouts that we used to do, and just I had to do things with my eyes closed. I had to do everything by sound and choreography with no ball and stuff like that. It was just all about consistency.
Gotcha.
And again, ego plays into it, though. I mean, you know, when it comes to, I've had big ego teammates for sure. I wasn't one of them. You know, always been a humble guy and just willing to learn and willing to take instruction. But I've had big ego, you know, teammates for sure. Not a lot of clientele as far as with the egos. They come to me, they know what I'm about. You know, usually it's a referral or something like that. They know what it's about for me. They know I've kind of been there. So don't bring that ego to me because I don't have to work with you. You know, it's just for me, it's just really about showing you what I show you with a little twist. You're gonna probably find out something new, you know, a little something, even if it's a mental component, which is the biggest part of my training nowadays. Is I'm big on teaching the mental side of this thing of how to endure, you know, how to look fresh even when you're tired. That's a huge thing I'm big on. And, you know, the egos, they usually go away pretty quick once they see what I'm bringing to the table.
Yeah. No, then you hit on one of my questions here. My next one for you was like, do you believe that you could build mental toughness in athletes? And if so, how do you guys go about doing that? Because I feel like that's most of this battle here.
I think you can. I know you can. I've seen it happen with people that I've worked with. I've seen it from afar with, I'm, you know, friends with other trainers. I've seen how they work with different athletes from the mental side. For me, again, that's the huge component as far as being able to stay focused enough while you're tired. Fatigue makes us forget stuff. I mean, that's one thing I've noticed as an athlete, noticing working with different athletes. I'll train athletes and I'll go to some of their games and their matches, you know, and I'm like, as soon as they got tired, all of their technique and everything that we worked on went out the window. And I saw exactly what adjustments I had to make as a trainer. I'm like, I'm gonna put them under duress more often and make sure they perform under duress. So the first 20 minutes of our workout really meant, I'm not gonna say it meant nothing, but that was all the warm up. Even if we were going super hard, nothing mattered until they got tired to me. So that's when I really stepped it up even more, like, okay, they're tired now, bet, now let's start. And that's, you know, for me, that's how my training just reworked itself, because I'm like, these athletes, they're mentally weak because they forget everything once they get tired.
It's like what Tyson said, like it's all different once you get punched in the face. And I feel like that's when you get to see that true,
absolutely,
who you want to be in the trenches with, and like who you really are. Because I feel like in my generation, maybe not you and Noose, you have some tough guys, but like when shit gets tough, people tend to falter when things start getting, when everything's going your way. It's okay to be happy. It's easy to be happy, but it's about, I'm saying, just walking through life every day. Like it's when shit's going hard and you're nervous about paying the bills or tough with this or that, that's when the true colors come out. That's when you got to kind of man up a little bit.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
What about you, Nooch, building mental toughness in your guys? You see that?
Yeah, I think like what Jay said, like fatigue makes cowards out of everybody. Yeah. But I think there's a smart way to go about, you know, and then we still see it with a lot of older mentality. It's just like beating our athletes down, just like mindless conditioning over and over, running the kids into the dirt, just trying to like, oh, you got to do this. You'll be mentally tough for this. That's not how you build mental toughness, right? So just actually planning things out, making it smart, and making it make sense will obviously get there. And, you know, just I've dealt with a lot of athletes who are not mentally tough, but whether it was like injuries or just like they don't have that upbringing, where their situations come from. Luckily for us, we were in situations where it's kind of like you had no other choice but to just be tough or just, you know, push past a certain circumstance where, you know, I'm getting out of this, regardless, one way or another. I'm getting out of this. No matter what you tell me, we're getting through this, and that's that. So, but that's how I always was, and I know you were as well. Yeah. But at the same time, it's just like, don't just beat a kid up for the sake of beating them up, because what it does is it essentially just makes it worse for them. Yeah. Because if you push them too hard, do they come back? Do they falter when you need them to push through it? It's almost like rolling dice with a lot of people. You just need to know when to push and when not to. So, because everyone's different, and that's what a lot of coaches and trainers don't understand. Not everyone's going to react the same. So there's always an element of building a rapport, building an element of just like trust until, you know, okay, well, I can get them to do a little bit more here. Okay, I get them to do a little bit more here. And that's all things you just work on when you're developing. You know, when you have an off season, when you have time to actually develop it, you're not going to build that in the middle of the season.
Right.
So it's just like, it takes time. Just like I said, not everyone's going to have, you know, that circumstance of like, oh, I'm dirt poor, or I don't know what it's like to just come out of the mud. I need to fucking do this for my family or do this for X, Y, and Z.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think finding that zone of like your optimal flow of is the key, is to like find that level of comfortability. Where are you comfortable and where you uncomfortable? And then slowly pushing yourself past. Some people can handle a lot, but I think the way to keep incrementally growing is that way, is just slowly push yourself to the edge. And that's kind of why you guys probably are doing it that way, you know?
I mean, and one thing, it was, again, doing one of my Nike camps over the summer. I told a group of kids, it was a pretty large camp over in Princeton, New Jersey. Now, again, you just mentioned like everybody doesn't have it. You have to come out of the mud, you get out of the mud and just kind of grind, doing this for the family, stuff like that. So again, being over in Princeton, absolutely not.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's the total opposite of that. So I just had to I have to pull every mental trick out, to be honest, so that they can have some type of self-motivation for themselves. That was the big thing. They weren't self-driven. You know, again, being on a basketball court with them, they don't have playgrounds on every block or basketball courts on every block. So they don't go outside to do a lot of this unless they have a hoop in their driveway, which many of them do, but it's not like they're out there hooping every day, right? So I have to show them like how to endure with the sport, how you can find a way to get better on your own. So I told them, I said, look, anytime I tell you we have 10 reps of something, tell yourself 16. Because that way, I said, I can tell between every time we had 10 reps of a certain drill, 10 jump shots, for example, they tightened up on 8, they tightened up on 9, and they missed the 10, right? It's like, man, you got it, now we restart. You know, so I told them, I said, you have to make the end the middle. That was a mental trick that I learned, you know, working with sports psychologists as a pro, to where it's like, okay, anytime a coach tells me, all right, we got 20 shots, 20 makes, whatever like that, I told myself, I got about 28 or 31. I'll give myself a random higher number so that by the time I get to 19 or 20, I'm not tightening up just to make the 20th one. I'm flowing right through it. And I forget many times. I zone out mentally. I just zone out. I'm so in tune in the moment to where it just happens. And that's why I had to teach these kids over the summer, to where like, let this stuff happen. Don't focus on that end result. You know what I mean? Be stronger than that mentally, and just make that middle the end. Man, I literally saw the result from that week. You know, it was great to see.
That's beautiful. How much do you think fear plays a part in this high performance space of sports that you're in with your athletes?
I mean, I look, I have no problem in saying that there was a level of fear that drove me as an athlete, and I see the same thing with different people I work with. It was a healthy fear, I feel. The fear of complacency. I didn't want to plateau, you know what I mean? So I just kept working on something. I find something else to work on, or let me go ahead and find my old VHS of Kobe and Jordan that I have. Like, I literally would watch these old things I used to watch growing up, and I had a fear of, not of failing. I really didn't, that was a part of my process. I never really cared about failing, but it was just not growing, not improving, just becoming complacent, and just, you know, I would say that drove me. It wasn't the fear of failure, though.
Your fear of staying the same.
Yeah, it was the fear of staying the same, man.
Damn. What about you, Nooch?
Yeah, I think it's the same thing for me. I knew that, and it's not a knock at where I'm from. I just like knew that there was, at a certain point, there's just like nothing left there for me to do. And everyone's like, "Oh, you're gonna move back home. You're gonna do this." I'm like, I'm not moving back home. Like, I would love to go back home, but when I go back home, I'm just like, what's there? Like, I know I love my family, I love my friends, but it's the same thing.
No
And
growth.
again, it's not a knock at anything, but like, people are comfortable being in that space. I'm not.
Mhm.
And I just know that there's something bigger. And like, I've been in this space for a while. I know that something bigger is coming for me. I don't know if that sounds weird or anything, but I have a feeling that something bigger is about to happen for me. I felt like this from like the beginning of this year. And like, when getting back to the point of like building mental toughness, I remember when I was playing ball at Temple, I would like literally train in this gym, like gorgeous facility, like state of the art facility all week. And then Monday I would go home, go back to my old gym, clean the roaches up, clean the whole facility, and then spend another like hour and a half, because Mondays was our lift day when I was in college in season, and I would go and spend another hour and a half just throwing a tennis ball off the wall, or still keeping my hands sharp, hitting a boxing bag for like another hour and a half. And that was what I did every Monday. That was my routine. Go back, clean the roaches up, knowing damn well there's going to be roaches in there maybe like 10 minutes later. But it was just like, for me, it was just like a thing. So like it builds character. And I feel like building character builds a toughness in you as well. And, you know, when you have that ability to kind of, you know, build and like grow in that sense, it just like makes you who you are. And then, like you were saying, Jay, like I never had a bad fear, but like staying the same was always like a thing for me. And I just feel like I could never kind of be in a space where I feel that way. I'm just like trying to grow and continuing to grow. And I just feel like everything's falling into place maybe. Exactly. And I was listening to it. I know, again, it sounds corny, but like it's a Big Sean lyric. And he's just like, oh, I guess it took 10 years for me to be an overnight success. And it's like, well, I guess that's where we're at.
Right. Nah, definitely, man.
Yeah. It sounds like you guys kind of use that uncomfortability to just continuously push yourselves through adversity. Because now I know how easy it is for Nooch to pivot, and Joe, you pivoted from MBA, motivational speaker, you just, you know, published the first book. Like it seems like it's relatively easy for you guys to pivot. Was this always the case?
I mean, for me, I would say, you know, in my adulthood, yes. You know, by that time, I believed in myself at a certain level to where I knew that it was nothing but a formula for whatever I wanted to pursue. Right? It wasn't like, okay, if I want to go into finance, then I would have to learn a whole new mentality. Or if I wanted to go into, you know, become a tennis pro, I had to learn. It's all the same mentality, right? It's learn what you're doing, right? Like learn as much as you can about that trade and give 1,000% effort toward improvement on a regular basis, and you're going to have a good result. I'm not ever concerned about the end result. That's the thing with me. I'm so honestly in love with the process of things to where I just know my end result is going to be, it's going to be good. It's going to be solid. And if it's not ideal, I'm going to grow in the process no matter what. So I'm not really ever concerned about my transition from a new industry or a new venture. I apply the same formula, same mentality I had as an athlete. I put it in business today. I still wake up early. I do what I have to do. If I have to stay up late, then I stay up late, and I don't whine about it. I just put in the effort that is honestly required in order to do well. And I feel like for me, it wasn't difficult to transition over. I just had to learn some new stuff and apply the same approach.
Yeah, dude, I still remember the first thing you ever said to me. I still think about when I'm getting frazzled. You said, "Scott, you do one thing at a time." And I've been telling people that, stealing it from you, Jay. That's
it. That's literally. I feel like I'm professional in 6 different things right now. I really only am pro in one thing, man. I do one thing. I promise you. I just told someone the same thing yesterday. I was like, I'm like, what are you talking about? I said, I only have one thing. And that's just all I do, man. I'm able, and I try my best to just mentally reset. Once I'm done with this task, it's over. It don't exist to me. I'm focused on this now.
What about
That's
you,
so
Nooch?
funny. It's like I've had those conversations so many times with athletes, like just pulling them aside and just being like, control what you could control. Mm-hmm. Remember what you're good at. Exactly. Remember why you're doing it and who you're doing it for. It's just like the same conversations over and over, and that has worked for me. Those couple like phrases have worked for me a lot. But at the same time, like you said, if I had to switch careers, it would be, you know, pedal to the metal. Just like,
yeah, I bet on you. I'm like, yeah, Nooch is gonna do finance with me. It's money. We're gonna make money there. That's it. Because it's that same thing. It's what Jay was saying. It's discipline, waking up early, being consistent, and giving 100%. I think it's, you guys found what you love. It's hard. At least I get these emails from kids like, oh, I don't know. When you don't have that thing, it's then you don't know what to focus on. You're kind of all over the place. What do you guys say to the kid that's saying, yo, I don't really know what my purpose is? or what I want to do, but I have this inkling. I tell these kids, go at that inkling, even though how stupid it is, whether it's, you know who I'm talking about, whoever's emailing me. But what would you guys say to that?
I think it's wild because there's like so many things we have at our grasp right now. It's like so many, like, it's like ADHD culture now.
Yeah.
So it's like we make these videos on Instagram and TikTok, you know, these longer videos. And I talk to you about this all the time when I'm on. Like we can't, the long videos, they get no views. We make these videos, I'll post like 4 or 5 different exercises. It's like pop, 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 pop. It's like 4 seconds. And then it goes viral. And it's like, all right, well, that's our culture.
Right.
So it's like that mentality. It's just like, well, I'm good at this, I'm good at this, I'm good at that, I'm good at this. Just stay consistent and focus on one thing. Like you said, Jay. It's just like focus on what you know, what you're good at, and just be consistent at it. And good things are going to happen for you. Like people tell me, like, oh, I don't know if I'm like passionate about anything. You have to be passionate about it, something.
Right.
Literally something.
I've heard the same thing, man. I'm like, that's impossible.
Yeah. I think what I see is this: you do something for 6 months and you're always going to get really good at something the first 6 months you're doing it, because that's like when you learn everything. And then the second you start making these incremental pieces and something gets hard, all right, I'm going to go do something else. I don't love it. I don't do this. I don't do that. And it's just a little, it gets me nervous because it's like, yeah, we're going to have these kids are going to be the adults in 20, 30 years. Like, you guys better be able to focus on something here. That's
well, good. Even that too. I had a kid who was from Philly, and it was like, he was training with me. He's like, oh, I don't have any money, this, that, and the other thing. But every day, new Jordans, new, you know, trendy clothes. I'm like, wait. You seem like you like fashion.
You're over there balling, like, man.
Yeah, right. And I'm just like, why don't you get into fashion? He's like, you know what? I never thought about that. And he's like, into fashion now. I'm like, what's wrong with you?
See? I think people are it seems like like I was programmed. You can only do a certain thing. You could either do business, you could do finance, you could be a lawyer, you could be a doctor. I'm like, there's more options than that.
Yeah, it's also, it's like people are like waiting for somebody to tell them what to do.
Yeah.
They don't wait for somebody to tell them. Just fucking do it.
Exactly. I mean, I feel like that it's a conditioning for sure that takes place to where, again, we taught to go through school, get a degree, get in a trade.
Yep.
Right. And that trade should be connected to your degree. And I just don't agree with it. You know what I mean? To where, I'll be honest, I majored in psychology with no intent of becoming a psychiatrist or a psychologist. I just enjoyed what it did for my mindset. It helped me in sports at the time when I was in school. It just made me mentally stronger. I was able to overcome things by way of what I was learning. And I was big on applications. So I would learn this stuff and actually try this stuff out on myself and other people. Like, I was that guy, like, be asking other people questions, probably annoying my buddies. But, we're taught and conditioned for that. Oh, you can do one thing in life. It's like, nah. You can, if you have a passion or, again, that inkling that you talked about, Scott, like, follow it. If you have 6 different inklings throughout your life, there's nothing wrong with following each and every one, as long as you give it some legit effort, some legit time of learning and assessment, and say, okay, I'm gonna attack it this way. Attack it, you know what I'm saying, and enjoy it. It's something that you enjoy doing. Go for it.
Yeah, dude. I said the same thing. I said I want to do psychology. I said it to my mom. I said, Mom, I'm going to school for psychology. She said, what are you going to work at the psychology factory? You're not doing it. So I did try it. I tried it, but no, that's good. Now, as far as I want to get a couple fitness pieces in with you guys. How do you guys, besides outside of the training that you're doing with your athletes, how do you view the weight room to them? Are they doing strength training as well on top of this, or is this something that they should be doing minimally? Like, what do you coach their relationship to be with weights, heavy weights, compound lifting?
I mean, we're lifting. I mean, it depends on the time of the year.
Yeah.
But if we're in off season, we're definitely going to be lifting. I mean, the majority of the athletes I'll see in off season are like 2-3 times a week, depending on the field work they get in. And in season, you should still be lifting at least once or optional twice a week. Should be able to get some type of stimulus in, because that's where a lot of coaches falter too. Is like in an old school mentality, is like, you shouldn't be lifting weights the whole year. Fuck yeah, you should. because you're just gonna fall off, and then you're
Right.
gonna have to rebuild all that strength that you lost anyway. Yeah. So just being able to have a foundation, have the right programming, it goes a long way. I'm just constantly harping on these things to people, and it's wild to me that some people are still stuck in this mindset that we shouldn't be lifting weights all year round, but the programming, we're going to lift weights.
Right. I mean, I completely agree. I'm big on even telling athletes, make sure, obviously this is a year-round thing, but you want to make sure you're really stretching that much more during season to where, you know, any any build up or anything like that, you don't want to carry all of that into any matches or bouts, but you want to just stretch it out as much as you can. Stay limber, stay loose, but definitely don't stop. You know, just like you said, Nush, just like you don't want to lose everything you just gained for the next 6 months because you're in season. Like, no, you put in all that hard work during the off season to build, to grow, to become stronger. You got to maintain it, you know, at some level. Obviously, maybe not at the same extent, but you want to maintain it so that incrementally over the years, you actually can compare it to yourself 4 years ago. You're stronger. Let's say if we're talking about somebody, I don't know, in a bench press or something like that. You don't always want to keep pressing the reset button. I mean, you feel like you've gotten no progress, you know, as a trainer, as a coach, and also as an athlete, they'll look back and say, I really haven't gained that much. So, I mean, I'm big on the same thing. Hey, you know, you definitely continue to lift during the year, do some type of strength training, but stretch it out that much more.
How would you split up the percentages, I guess, for just a general athlete of this strength to speed and agility training? 50-50?
For me, I don't care. I think my athletes should be at least max sprinting 2-3 times a week, 3 at the most. It doesn't have to be a lot of volume. It depends on the distance and, you know, being able to open up. I mean, if we're trying to get faster, you have to run. I think we get so caught up in these gimmicky exercises on the internet, like, oh, this is going to make you faster. No, it's not. You know, it's going to make you faster. Fucking sprinting is going to make you faster.
I mean, that's it.
But like 2-3 times a week, and then mix it in with, you know, the right programming, and we just got not overloading all this shit in the one session. People don't understand that we can actually rest too, and it's going to benefit us. There's just so many like misses that athletes and even young athletes and pro athletes still now, they just like don't have the knowledge. It's just like there's more bad in our industry than there is good, and that does, you know, you see it all the time with these stupid workouts that get posted on SportsCenter. So it's just like there has to be some sense of knowledge, and like I said, there's more bad than there is good in our industry, and it sucks seeing it sometimes.
Yeah, and it's funny you mentioned something that I was an era of before. Early on, I was so excited to be on the training side. I would try to show somebody how to become amazing in one workout. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was like, all right, let me show them this, that, and that. And I would dedicate a good amount of time for each thing, but then it was like I didn't allow them to focus on what we were working on long enough to actually even feel like they got better in that area during that workout. So I had to stop and say, no, okay, I got to rearrange the way I'm even training and only work on maybe 2 to 3 things. Maybe that, you know, maybe just 2 aspects or components of their sport or their body type or whatever I'm working on. And that's where I grew as a trainer myself. Was like, okay, I had to even talk to different pro athletes who I was, you know, working with and just that I even knew that was still competing while I was on the training side. And we said, all right, let's focus on 2 things. And just that way, by the end of that workout, they can literally tell me, yo, I've gotten better today. As opposed to like just dabbling with all this stuff. And it may look cool, maybe like, oh, you did all this, but did you actually get better? No.
Yeah, because it makes sense to me. Like, why would you want to get better in the one piece skill or something that isn't involved in the sport? It's just to kind of, you know, we talk about me and Nush have spoken about this like numerous times, that the exercises that work are not the sexy workouts. So it doesn't work on Instagram. Exactly. So people just end up getting kind of duped a little bit. How's that been going, Nush? Have you been seeing that same shit happen?
No one's trying to fuck with me recently. That's good.
That's what I'm talking about.
It's not bad. There's always 1 or 2 every now and again. That's how I know I'm kind of doing stuff right. I'm gonna get people up my ass about shit.
That's what's up.
But no, it's funny you said that, like trying to do all that. I was guilty of it too when I first started. Just like these 2-hour sessions, and then it gets to the point where you're like, all right, 45 minutes, and people are like, that's it? Or athletes are just looking at you like, that's all we're doing? Like, yeah, get out. Go home.
Right, exactly.
That's it.
Exactly. Absolutely.
Joel, I would be remiss if I didn't ask. You just dropped Filtering the Way to Extract Strength from Struggle. The book that dropped on the 6th this
The
month.
6th,
This
yep.
is coming out. So everybody listen to this a week later. How the hell was that? And was that shit scary? Because that would scare the shit out of me.
It was a process, man. You know, I was writing it. I started writing it back in 2016, believe it or not. So it was about a 6-year process. I knew I had the name of the book. I knew roughly what it was going to be about. It was a method of, you know, and a tool that I came up for myself, that I call filtering. It was just, I was going through a whole lot of, you know, life, you know, potential divorce at the time, separation, and all these things, being a father at the same time, and then all of a sudden be a single father. I was going through all these things. I had all these questions about life, and just began seeking answers, man. And just, you know, it's like, I have to figure out a way to not just go through this stuff and be complaining about it. I got to use this stuff against itself somehow. And I just had to figure out how I can actually kind of reverse engineer my problems, man, and get something from them so they can actually push me to the other side, as opposed to like, all of a sudden hindsight reveals the answers to me a year down the road, like, oh man, that's what I should have did. I had to figure out a way to find out what I needed to know in the moment. So I just began filtering, you know, literally my experiences, and just breaking them down into pieces and bite-sized pieces, to be honest, man. I'm a simple person. I call myself simple-minded, not in a negative sense, but like, I enjoy simplifying things, and I can handle them. I'm less overwhelmed when I simplify things for myself, and by way of breaking things down to where I can really handle them and manage them, it made the whole process of, I'll be honest, living life easier. I was able to, again, literally use the dark moments against themselves to where I canceled it out. It didn't bother me anymore. And I was able to pull strength from those moments and actually apply them and channel the strength, the energy, the anger, the sadness toward productive place, man. So it took me some years to really get down. I was speaking it from the stage to different companies, to different schools. And I said, I have to write this. I saw the feedback that I was getting from what I was speaking. So I said, I have to put this in print. And, you know, again, we just released the book. It's available everywhere on Amazon, Barnes and Noble, and all right now. And already getting amazing feedback, man. It's a blessing to know that, you know, what I'm teaching, what I'm writing about, you know, I give my personal story in the book. Again, growing up in an abandoned house, being 10 feet away from a shooting when I was 6 years old, and all those things, and losing my brother when I was a teenager traumatically, like all these different things I put in there, and tell people how I had to process it, how I had to filter those moments and still make it out on the other side without complaining and saying, oh, that means I can't be successful in life. Oh, that means I'm gonna be the next to die. I couldn't live that way, man. So I just had to really put myself out there, be more transparent, which I haven't been most of my life. I saw it was therapeutic for me. So I said, hopefully this book can be therapy for somebody else.
Yeah, man. No, and we'll put that in the link below if everyone's checked that out. Isn't it funny, Jay? Like, life's lessons that you need to learn will just keep smacking you in your face until you learn them. That's what I'm getting this year. It's crazy. It's crazy.
It's amazing, man. It's amazing until you say, "Oh, I got it. All right, I got." Then all of a sudden, you move on to the next lesson.
Yeah,
Right? I mean, it's how it is, man. It will make sure our awareness is awakened. You know, and until that point, like you said, it will keep showing itself, but with a different surface or a different face.
Yeah, until you acknowledge it, man. Yeah,
right.
Dude, that's right. Now, Nooch, my last question is for both of you. I'll start with Nooch. It seems like you guys got the hard stuff down that some people with the motivation, the discipline, all that stuff, but there has to be a big vision that you guys see. What is your why? Why you do what you do? Why you keep pushing every day? What does that look like?
I think it goes back from myself. I think it just goes back to being an athlete, and I think we talked about it a lot already. It's just like I refuse to just live a normal life. I don't want to be normal in any sense of everything. I just feel like there's a bigger purpose, and I literally kill myself going through these like hours upon hours of working with other people and showing them what they can be and how to get better and this, that, and the other thing for myself to ultimately take a next step. And you know what? I don't know what it is, and I'm perfectly fine not knowing what that next step is. But I know that I'm starting to reach a peak in this, fitness area. But I'm also learning a ton of other lessons along the way, which I think is super cool. in a very special way to myself. I'm getting to learn about myself more. I'm getting to learn, how to treat people. I'm getting to learn, about other people. And it's just like such a, bigger world out there than I originally knew. And I feel like like I said, it's just like something that is coming and I just don't know what it is. And it's like a scary good, but also at the same time, I'm ready for it. I feel like I've been preparing for this for a really long time.
I mean, before I even get into my why, I know the exact feeling you're talking about, man. And it's okay to not know exactly what you feel is coming or looming. I mean, I had that feeling about twice in the last probably 6 or 7 years. And I remember I told my ex that honestly, that exact same, I said, I feel like something is about to happen. Because I was so locked in on what I was doing, so in tune with what I was doing. I'm like, something good almost has to happen for me. Like I just felt that way. Like a reward has to be on its way. I don't know in what capacity, but something is telling me, man, something is a great opportunity is about to happen. And I'll be honest, business is beginning to just take off about a year. So after that point, about a year and a half after, I had that initial feeling, and I'm like, that was it. That was it. But talking about my why, no question, is my son. He's 9 years old. I mentioned, off air, just got in, but before we got on air, we were at my old university. I take him over there. We were over there practicing. We had our practice for about 90 minutes. And I was just talking to him about cause and effect. I'm like, look, this is all you got to get down, man. You got to know that if you want a certain result, a certain effect, he wants to play basketball. He's a whole mini me. And I'm like, well, look, it's not just going to happen for you, man. I don't want my son to be ignorant in that capacity. Like, you can have your childlike ignorance on other things, but when it comes to something you tell me that you want to be great at, I'm going to let you know it don't just happen for you. You got to do something in order for that to happen. And so, again, everything that I do in business, life, whatever, I know I'm now being watched by this little kid. So he's the reason why I operate at every level that I operate, because I know if I operate too low, he's going to see it, he's going to adopt that, and all of a sudden he's going to do the same thing. And I'm hurting our whole legacy. Like, I'm hurting his kids because they're going to see that in him as an adult. So I'm so big on making sure that whatever I do, just like New said, man, I don't want to be average. I don't want to just be normal at what I do. I want to be great, man. It's nothing, no arrogance behind that, no conceit. I want to be amazing at what I do. And, for me, knowing that somebody's watching me, I want them to see me as an amazing father. I want my son to see me like, man, I got the best dad in the world, man. He works hard, and that's why we're able to do all this stuff. Exactly. It's cause and effect, man. If you want to be able to have this or do that, you got to put in some work. So no question, my son, man, is my why.
Yeah, man, you got to make that happen. I like that. Yeah, that's beautiful. And yeah, that's probably why it's easier for you to be complacent, to not be complacent, because that excitement, the unknown is behind us any second. It's behind us in front. We don't know what's going to happen next. It's either you could fear that, or you could get excited about that and be like, yeah, you bet your fucking ass it's going to be good. Because I don't think it's a surprise that feeling draws the goodness, because I think it's similar to, like, if you think you're gonna crash or you think something's gonna go bad, something usually goes bad. I think I don't know what it is. It's something I haven't quite grasped yet, but I just know when you really believe that the top of the mountain is coming, the top of the mountain is coming. It's just that simple.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's just like a wild. I appreciate you sharing that, Jay. I really do.
Oh, for sure, man. Again, like, even with, I literally know exactly what you're talking about, man. It's like a dangling carrot, and it just keeps you moving forward, because you don't know exactly when you would be able to grasp the carrot, but it's like it's there, and
right.
It's nothing like just knowing you're going somewhere amazing with what you're focused on at the moment. I enjoy getting those random feelings. I'm like, all right, bet, let's do this. I just want to, like, work that much harder because I know something is down the pike. And yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, and it kind of like flipped for me in the summer. Like, I barely was in the gym. I mean, I still had my, like, close clients in the facility last year when I was doing the, pro sport thing. And then I was like, this summer I'm in there and, like, 10 hours a day, nonstop. I'm like, holy shit, like 6, 7 different sports, like high level athletes in there with me, and I'm just like, shit, what is happening? But also I'm like, this is why. This is what I figured was going to happen.
It's funny. I'll say this now. I don't know if this is going to help, but when that thing began to happen for me, it came by way of partnerships. I remember clearly. It began to happen when we partnered with somebody, and it was like, I needed help in essence. And that's what did it for me. And it was like, this has to be that's something I was feeling. It's like, oh, I bet somebody else took it on and added to the table. And it was like, boom, things just took off. It came by way of a partnership.
Yeah.
So again, I don't know if that helps at all, but
no, dude, I get that, Jake. I would say I've been having a shit year, and I would say I've been alienating myself from people, and it's like I didn't realize how important. Even me going through this little jumping thing, I've been just by shifting gratitude and my perspective. I think when you have that feeling something big's gonna happen, it just changes your filter in reality, and by changing that, you are probably nicer to people. You just feel
big
something
time,
good
big
coming.
Yep.
And you realize, oh shit. And like last week I made like double the amount of money I made all year. It's like, holy shit, like what is happening?
Yeah.
It's like, oh, you just fucking when you feel hatred, you're gonna see hatred. When you feel love, you're gonna feel love. I think it comes down to, you don't realize how important your thoughts kind of craft what your reality looks like, if that makes sense.
So true.
That's wild.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think it's funny, the event that I'm going to next weekend in New York, the seminar, the guy who's hosting it, Kenny Santucci, I met him almost 2.5 years ago at a Michelob Ultra event. And I was like fresh in Chicago. He was like the MC or the host of the event. And I remember going up on stage, I'm doing my thing or whatnot, and my shoe snapped. Like I was wearing like Nike Flyknits, and the bottom of my shoe snapped. Like I did a lateral bound and my shoe snapped, and I like bent backwards, and I like almost did like a kip up coming back up into my feet because my shoes, and no shit, there's like maybe like 300-400 people out in the crowd watching this. So that happened, and then we had to go up on stage again and do like a smaller workout. And I've never met him. He was been on like the real, like all the challenges and everything. And so after the show, he's like, comes up to me, he's like, yeah, you have something. And I'm like, all right. And I just like walked away. Like it was like the smallest thing ever.
Yeah.
And then the guy who's like the main attraction for the event, Gunnar Peterson, I'm sure you know who Gunnar is. He was the Lakers strength and conditioning coach.
Absolutely.
Big personality in our industry. I got connected to him not too long ago as well, like on a phone call. If you're like, oh, ask him for a job, do this. And then I got off the car, like, why did you ask him for a job? I was like, why am I going to ask him for a job?
Right.
Now I'm on the same thing as him, like the same seminar as him. And I'm just like, what is happening?
That's amazing.
So I'm just like, all these things start to like connect like years after the fact that they were even like planted, right? So something's going right.
Amazing, man.
You keep planting the seeds and, you know, they'll grow, man.
Honestly. Exactly.
Dude, thank you guys so much for joining me. Damn, I feel like we got I'm like a little trance here. We got so deep on this, but thank you, Jay Green. Everybody check out on Filtering, the way to extract strength from the struggle below. Nooch, there's still tickets left for the seminar next week?
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I think we've sold almost like over 600 right now.
And I'll put that below
be a
too.
Big event.
Everybody could see Nooch. I can't make that. I got wedding shit. But after party drinks or something, and Nooch, I'm not going out partying with you. I got a wedding the next day. I can't. We can't. Mark my words. There's no little sister. There's no towel. There's no catch. You know I'm gonna fuck up this whole wedding next week. It's gonna be terrible.
I know all about towel, man. I was there recently.
Jay, I promised myself I wouldn't, but Nooch is coming. I got my best friends getting married the day after the seminar, so I'm helping him with the whole shtick. So I told him, I'm like, could I go out for drinks? He's like, Scott, I've never seen you go out for 2 drinks in my life. And I'm like, all right, so we'll figure it out.
Okay.
But no, Jay, thank you so much. Nooch, always, man, the realest ones in the game. Cause and the Effect, thank you guys so much. Do me a favor, subscribe, like, review, all that good stuff. For people listening, just keep doing what you're doing. Appreciate it. As always, stay safe, stay positive, stay blessed. We'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.